Alright boys, listen up. This is Crossfire Legion, the new RTS from none other than Blackbird Interactive, creators of Homeworld Deserts of Karak and the upcoming Homeworld 3. It's been in early access since May, but it's just seen a full 1.0 release a week or so ago, and today we're going to take a look at it and see if A, it lives up to Blackbird's pedigree, and B, can go toe-to-toe with other fresh RTSs of the 2020s, like Age of Empires 4 and Iron Harvest. Now, full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Crossfire Legion and publisher Prime Matter. And if you want to try the game for yourself, then as always there's a link in the description, or just search it up on Steam. Truth be told, I was already going to be checking this game out once it hit 1.0, now not necessarily within a week of my biggest video of the year, which I just got done recording by the way, but hey, that's how the hammer falls sometimes. And what's a few sleepless nights really, when compared to the glory of real-time strategy? Anyway, we're here for Crossfire, so let me tell you what the game actually is, for those unaware, and how it's come to be that we have two games that look like they could be Command & Conquer spin-offs releasing within a year or so of each other after basically a decade of nothing of the sort. Like I said in the opening, Legion launched in early access back in May of this year, and it's fair to say that the initial response probably wasn't in line with what BBI and Prime Matter might have been hoping for. There were quite a few justified complaints about the game's store, which, while initially innocuous, and without the ability to have real money spent in it, it seemed a little sus. People were concerned that this could be filled with game-changing microtransactions down the line, even though it was something that BBI were very decisive in answering through this blog post. They said it was never intended to involve real money. Regardless, they ripped out the system entirely and reworked a bunch of stuff to address feedback. That's the sign of a good developer, in my opinion. And they've also spent the rest of the game's time in early access ironing out bugs, adding new features, and again addressing player feedback as best that they can. And now we're here, 1.0. So, with that out of the way, what even is it? Crossfire Legion is an action-focused RTS that reminds me of something that could have come out in the 2000s. It's in a similar vein to something like Command & Conquer Generals or Halo Wars. And like me, before playing you might not even know that this is part of a massive IP, with Crossfire being one of the biggest FPS games in the world, with a lifetime total user count topping 1 billion, with a B. Crazy, right? Anyways, that's really neither here nor there, as Legion is its own game that happens to share the IP with a couple of others. But it is cool to see the universe of a very prominent FPS game expanded via a real-time strategy one though, and I wouldn't mind seeing this more often. The game's set in modern day with a mix of technology you'd expect from real life, as well as the odd, mega-sized walking robot that's as big as an apartment block. There are 3 fully realised factions to play. First up is Global Risk, and like any good gaming channel where we try to reference Command & Conquer as much as humanly possible, they could be considered Crossfire's version of GDI. As an organisation backed by first world governments around the world, they position themselves as the good guys who exist to stop terror and definitely don't crush people under their boot, with their primary enemy being the next faction, Blacklist. They're your nod types, I guess, filled with mercenaries and members of disillusioned countries that have felt crushed under the foot of global risk for a little too long. They can be a little extreme at times, and as such they're often called terrorists, but you know, everything's a matter of perspective, isn't it? The third and final faction is New Horizon, who stand out significantly from the other two. They aren't aligned with anyone and are basically technology evangelists who want to transcend their human form through AI and technical evolution. Each faction has a playstyle that they excel at. Global Risk are ranged experts with specialised units that work great in bigger teams. Blacklist use hit-and-run guerrilla tactics, and New Horizon use those apartment block mechs that I talked about to just crush anyone that's in front of them. There's an expansive roster of units for each faction, and it's up to you to choose which ones you want to take into a battle through the game's roster system. Each roster has 8 slots that need to be filled, and each slot is tied to a fixed unit type. So infantry, air, tanks, etc. Most slots will have 3 or 4 units to choose from, and from there you build your roster however you see fit and depending on the playstyle that you're aiming for. You've also got to pick a commander that helps to focus the gameplay style you're going for. Each faction has 3 and they all have unique abilities. Phoenix here, for example, can deploy an outpost that heals your units and can teleport them to a completely new area. While Daddy, sorry, oh god, why is everyone so attractive? And Warden can deploy defensive fortifications and artillery bases at will. Lastly, while we're here on units, can I say that I really love the art on all these cards. The artists did awesome work here, these things look great. Legion includes quite a few different ways to play, which is really refreshing. A lot of games nowadays tend to launch fairly bare bones, with only a mode or 2, so it's nice here that we've got a full campaign, classic skirmish, co-op missions versus the AI, and a few other unique multiplayer modes, like this one, which is halfway to being a pretty good auto-battler that could stand on its own. It almost reminds me of Modern Warfare 2 in a weird way. I've been blown away by that game's myriad of ways to play, whether it's campaign, spec ops, warzone, traditional multiplayer, etc. And Legion is giving me similar vibes. Starting with the campaign, it's split into 4 acts, one for each faction, plus an extra at the end. But it's varied and has some great production values for what it is. I love how you can tell that the campaign cutscenes are a technological development on the style Blackbird used for Deserts of Karak, with this kind of shaded look paired with fluid motion. It's good, I love it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to try the co-op in this preview build. I did play what multiplayer modes I could versus the AI, and they're a lot of fun. Skirmish is what you'd expect, and I found the roster choices satisfying to use, and there's a great variety between all the different unit and commander pairings that are available. I'll admit I am a little worried with a system like this devolving into the best meta options that mean you're at a significant disadvantage if you don't pick the best combination of units, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. Hopefully proper counters and strategies develop to allow a wide range of choices. And this is something that BBI could work on with post-release content like new commanders and units. Oh, there's also an in-depth level editor too, so if you're an aspiring map maker, then you're sure to enjoy yourself here. The game also supports Steam Workshop, so it'll be super easy to create, share, and download new maps going forward. Now I'll admit I'm not experienced at this kind of thing at all, but the tools here, from my very limited perspective, look very impressive. And I reckon you can make some pretty sweet stuff with this. From a visual standpoint, Legion looks awesome, with unique and well-designed units, flashy effects, and some particularly great environments. Whether it's a city under siege or a frosted military base with wisps of snow floating about, all the game's locations are lovely to look at, and they're a great place to fight your battles in. And crucially, it runs great too. While RTSs aren't usually known for crippling gaming PCs, you don't need to look far to spot a game with crippling bugs or abysmal optimization in today's world of modern gaming. And aside from some longer load times, I'm glad to see that Crossfire Legion checks those boxes. If you've lamented the fact that the old school style of RTS games from the 2000s is as rare as hen's teeth nowadays, you'll certainly want to give Crossfire Legion a shot. Like I said, there are not many games that fill this niche in today's market, and with the upcoming Tempest Rising from Slipgate Ironworks, you're eating pretty darn good right now. I'm looking forward to seeing how Legion evolves and improves over time. BBI have clearly got a vision for how they want to keep a healthy player base going forward, as well as a competitive scene apparent from all the available on-launched ranked ladder and myriad of PvP options and game modes. I think they've learnt a lot from the game's 6-month early access period, and I'm glad that it didn't drag on for years like some games do. And it leaves them in a great position to build on the solid foundation that they've laid out for themselves. Blackbird really have been killing it recently with their recent releases, and if Homeworld 3 ends up being the slam dunk that I hope it will be, then they'll potentially have 2 high-budget action RTS games on the go at once, both with hopefully healthy player bases and bright prospects for future content, expansions, and sequels. And if all that occurs, BBI might just surpass companies like Relic and Blizzard to become the king of the hill of modern real-time strategy gaming. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then a sub and a like would be hugely appreciated. And thanks again to Crossfire Legion and Prime Matter for sponsoring the video. If you want to check the game out, then there are of course links in the description. Otherwise, just search for Crossfire Legion on Steam, I'm sure you can find it. Lastly, if you want to support me and what I do here, then you can become a member here on YouTube or over on Patreon. You'll gain access to my Discord at any tier, which start at just $1 a month.